edition of ASMR with I Am Just 1120. Just kidding, I don't do that here. I'm too loud and obnoxious. Oh God, why? Jesus. All right, anyway, we are here to talk about something way more fun. My paranormal story, or one of many. So anyway, welcome back to my train wreck of a channel. Nice to see you. Hope your day is going fabulous. Hope you're ready to watch some nasty blonde. Okay. Literally, my setup is just so unprofessional. My tripod is just like basically giving me the finger right now. It's fine. I've only had to reshoot this like 5 times because of it messing up, but whatever, it's fine. I love my life. I love it so much. Enough with my first world problems. Let's get down to the video. So I have been teasing a little bit of talking about this. I feel like I've kind of talked about it a little bit in other videos, but they've been very short and I haven't really gone into detail because I feel like the more I talk about this stuff, just like a lot of other people have said, like Graveyard Girl and like Loey Lane, a bunch of people who have like delved into that side of the paranormal have talked about, the more you talk about it, the more you invite it into your life. And I don't know how willing I am to like have that happen again. Granted, like I'm in an apartment that I feel like I get no odd feelings in, which is great. I feel like I am kind of, God, not to sound like one of those people to be like, oh, I'm like sensitive to things like that, but I am. I know that there are a lot of skeptics out there, and I have been on that side as well for a long time. And I feel like I have had multiple things happen where I can't ignore it anymore. Anyway, so getting into it, I'm going to start off with, this is a story from when I was in high school. And so I feel like back then I was in a very different place. Admittedly, like I'm going to start off, throw all my cards on the table. So if somebody's going to say like something could have, you know, I don't know, like maybe I fabricated or like I imagined it, like I'm going to throw out all the facts because I'm not going to like hide anything, because honestly, I'm making this video because I'll get into it later, but I feel like this has followed me for years and I feel like it has terrified me and like I don't know what to do. You know, I feel like I'm so, I don't know, like I'm so confused. Anyway, back in high school, I was kind of an outcast, you know, like with family, with friends, with like everybody that I really knew, because like I just was kind of a lone wolf. You know, I had people who took me under their wing, which was great, but I was in a poor mental state then, like very depressed. And I don't know, like I just, I didn't really want to be included in many things, if that makes sense. You know, like I wanted to be by myself, like very, very different from how I am now. So anyway, to give you a little bit of a background, I lived with my mom and my sister at the time, and we moved a lot, and it was very, very hard as a child to like continuously like move from home to home and like never feel like I had a childhood home. That was something that I was so jealous of with other people. But when we found this house, I was very hopeful because I was like, oh, this is gonna be the house that we're gonna be in for a while. Like I'm not gonna be here and like plant roots and after like a year or a couple years have to move again. Anyway, when we first moved into this house, like we didn't grow up with very much money. We were poor a good portion of it. So my sister and I had to share a bedroom, which was fine. Like we were super close. Like we always shared a room, but I feel like this room was like very small. So like having 2 teenage girls like on top of each other, not always the greatest thing. My mom, knowing this, was like, okay, well, I'm going to save up money and I'm going to take out a loan and finish the basement so I can have my own room down there. I like volunteered. I was a weird child. I wanted to have my own floor, which was kind of like a cool concept. I was going to have my bedroom, the laundry room was down there, and then like kind of like a family room outside, and then a bathroom. It was a really cool setup. I was super stoked. I was like, I can have my friends over, we can watch movies, play video games, like all this fun stuff, whatever. So anyway, my sister and I share this room for a couple of months while this is being done. It finally gets done. I move down to the basement. I'm super stoked. I'm like, I have my own space, which is like what I always wanted. So things started to get really weird. Like at this time, my mom was like very much into the idea of family nights. Like she would have usually like a couple days a week, or like it got to the point where it was like one night a week where we would watch a movie or TV together and just like spend time together, Good idea. Especially since I was such a weird, like, emo high school kid that was like, no, I don't want to be a part of your family. So anyway, there was one night where we were like all in the living room, and my mom had pictures up on the wall of like my sister and I, and like I think of her as well. There were like a line of like the 3 photos. Like we had this as a theme growing up in our different houses. Like we would have different like pictures together, whatever, like showing us as like being a close family. Well, my sister's is just like hanging on the wall, doing its thing, whatever. And so like in the middle of us like watching TV or whatever, her picture just flies off the wall. And like when I say flies, I don't mean falls off the wall. This mofo like flies 5 feet off the wall, like straight, just with like a crash in front of us. And we're just like, like we all look at each other and like, let me just paint you a picture. Like nobody in my family believes in this stuff. I didn't believe in this stuff at that time. And so like we all just look at each other and we're like, haha, like how weird. Something must hate you in this house, Meg. Like just like being super sarcastic and goofy about it, whatever. So anyway, like that goes on. We all kind of like forget about it. Well, I start to notice me being in the basement. It's just like really messing with me. I just feel like a lot of people, especially in these situations, try to argue. And I haven't shared this story often, but I feel like I've had people who will say like, oh, you were depressed, like you fabricated this stuff, and like you can form your own opinion. But like going into it, I wasn't as bad off until I was in this like basement by myself. And at first, I don't know, like I think I'm gonna like give a little warning. Like if you have any issue with talking about self-harm or hearing about it, I encourage you to skip ahead probably like 30-40 seconds. I'm not going to talk about it much because again, like I get very uncomfortable talking about it, clearly, as you can probably tell. But in high school I had a history of cutting. And I'm not like laughing at that to like make a joke. It's something that's like very uncomfortable to talk about. Like my mom, knowing that I was like struggling and everything, ended up finding a cat for me, which was super cool. Like that was very nice of her. But this cat was a rescue, a stray before, and like very, I don't know, like very jumpy, very skittish, everything. To the point that after I first got this cat, she hid under my dresser for like 18 hours straight. I thought this cat was gonna starve to death. Like I was freaked out. Anyway, just paints a picture of like she would not sleep anywhere near me or like come anywhere near me for a long time. Like it took years for her to finally, and even then she was still just very skittish. Like she was a street cat when they found her, and she never broke of that. This is all important to say because I went through a period of time where I would wake up with scratches on my chest, and you could always say, okay, so it's not the cat, clearly. Like if she wouldn't come near you, like obviously she's not like clawing your chest, or like you're not breaking out in allergies or whatever on your chest. You could be like, oh, Jess, like, did you scratch yourself or whatever? Which is something that I have thought multiple times too, especially because like, I was very skeptical and I didn't believe, or, didn't want to believe in anything like that. However, I just want you to take a look at, I'm sorry, in advance, if anybody is like squeamish or doesn't like to look at, nasty nails, like, warning. So I have very, very short nails, and I always have. I've had a problem with biting them, again, from like anxiety. And so I've never had nails long enough unless I go and get them done, which I did not start doing until like way after high school. I I can't leave a mark like scratching myself. Like there's nothing, you know. Oh, what a long-winded way to say, hey, it's not possible for me to have like clawed on my own chest. Anyway, moving on. So that was really weird. And so, you know, I had like friends who would notice it and ask me about it. And I had no answer. I didn't know, you know, I was like, I have no idea. And it started to get kind of embarrassing because whenever, you know, like my very close friends like knew I had issues with cutting and everything, and like my mom started to ask me about it and I had no answer. So again, like I'm going through my life, I'm like, okay, like maybe somehow, and like at this time it's important to note as well, I was having very vivid night terrors, which if anybody is interested for me to make a video talking about those, I in detail from over 10 years ago remember all those dreams. I've like written short stories about them because like they terrify me. I still to this day remember them in detail, and like I would wake up to the point where I was frozen from how terrified I was. Like I would have to sleep with a light on. I still do to this day. Like I can't sleep in all darkness just because I'm still just terrified of that stuff. I still struggle with some night terrors, which again, we will get into. So I'm thinking, anyway, I'm thinking that could be, I'm like getting so stressed, I'm like clawing myself in my sleep or whatever. Like I seriously like thought of all these things. Well, apparently the universe was just like, or whatever was in this house was just like throwing it out to me like, no, like I exist, acknowledge me. I woke up one morning with like a burning on my back and I, you know, like I've got very sensitive skin. I feel like I'm prone to heat rashes very easily. Like if my skin gets too hot, I have very dry skin. I feel like, you know, all this stuff could have happened. I was like, oh, dang it. Like I let my skin get too dry. Like Aveeno, come sponsor me. So I'm like thinking all that, you know. So I go into the bathroom by my bedroom one morning because I'm just like, oh my God, this like hurts. I lift up my shirt, turn around, and there are claw marks on my back. I kid you not. And still, even then, I was like trying to think of logical explanations. I was like, maybe Fiona, my cat, did this, you know, but again, how would I not have woken up if she had done that? And she, no matter how hard I tried to get her to be anywhere near me at night or like whatever, she just, especially she would freak out at night in that room too. Like she would like run around the room like she was, I don't know, like running from something, or she would like stare at a wall or like meow and stuff. It was just stuff that was really weird. And again, I attributed that to like her being a skittish cat. I was like, she's just kind of like you know, emotionally damaged. I relate. Like the claw marks, and it was in a place that like even if I had nails I couldn't reach. Also during this time, it can be noted as well, like me going to school, I started to it sounds like so stereotypical and so weird. And again, like I understand if people are like, oh, you're not telling the truth, because even to me, like having gone through this, it doesn't seem real. But I would, you know, like go to, and I like felt like I was in a daze for like months on end. Like I felt like I was like looking at the world through someone else's eyes, if that makes any sense. Like another important thing to note as well is my sister and I have always been very close. Like out of anybody, I feel like I trust her the most to like be there at the end of the day for me. Like if anybody has my best interest at heart, I've always felt like she has had that for me. While living in this house, like I was 100% convinced that like everyone was against me. It was so weird, like even her. And it was almost like there were thoughts being put in my head of like, and I know that this is like stereotypical like depression and, you know, kind of like thing that can go on, but it was, I'm trying to find a good way to describe this, because I feel like, again, whatever, I'm just going to say it. If people don't believe me, like that's fine. But it was almost like I would hear like it was like a different, you know how like when you think of something it just like sounded like a different voice in my head, I guess, you know, like very weird. I know, I hate even saying it, I hate admitting it, because I feel like it's not a lot of people like look at you in the same way when you say stuff like that. But it was almost like somebody was like planting these thoughts in my head of being like, no, like she is against you, and like so is your mom, and like so are your friends, like you don't have a place in this world and you should just not exist. Like even in my like most depressed states, I feel like I have never thought, like I still, like admittedly to this day, whenever I fall into a funk or whatever, like I will have thoughts kind of similar to that, where it's like, oh, like if I didn't exist, nobody would notice, you know, kind of thing. But like I never I never in my right state of mind or whatever think that someone is against me. Like I've never thought that about somebody. I've like never thought that somebody like actively that I should have in my life that cares about me wants to see me fail, you know. And like during this whole situation, that's how I felt about everyone. It should be noted that I had a journal at the time, and even after like moving out of that house, I still would use this journal. And so like I am very much in the mindset of it's nice to see how far you have come mentally, like trying to cope with everything. And especially like if I feel better than I did like a year before, like 6 months before, even a couple months before, I like to look back at stuff that I wrote, you know, like previous, just to see how different I feel now. And so after we moved out of this house, I started journaling again, and I looked at it, but I like looked at some of my old entries, and I saw stuff that I don't remember writing. Like it was just stuff that was very paranoid and very much just like, you know, like my family was like plotting against me. It was so weird. This video is making me so jumpy. I feel like every time I hear any noise in the background, I literally hate that I just heard a ding. This is like why I don't talk about it, because I feel like I just get so stressed. Like I'm getting so stressed right now. Anyway, moving on. Dear God, I don't have much left of this video. I just have to finish this. So anyway, kind of like fast forwarding, just because I kind of want to, I feel like this video is becoming way too long. And also, as you can probably tell, I am like, I've had to talk about this a few times just because like I've had things happening here like on this end that just have forced me to refilm. And I'm like getting very stressed. Anyway, like us moving out of that house, I feel like, you know, a lot of that stuff, it was like a veil just fell off or whatever. But I feel like this is where we're gonna get into a little bit more of like why this whole story is so weird and why I'm making this video right now. So I mentioned I had night terrors, and I feel like that's something that like since I've lived in this house, I have struggled with off and on. I'll have like night terrors for like a straight month, and then like I won't have them for months on end or like weeks on end or whatever, and then they just like come back. But I had a night terror the other night. And admittedly, I was watching a bunch of Blowy Lane videos, but they were all about ARGs. Like I specifically, towards the end of the day, was like not watching her paranormal stuff because, again, I'm like very much into that mentality of like, if you give something attention or I just like, I don't want to play with the idea of like having night terrors again, you know. And I feel like ARGs like don't bother me in that sense. Like I feel like they're interesting, like intellectually I like to like think of, oh, like why did they make this video, what's the message? So I wasn't watching anything paranormal. But I still had a vivid night terror of walking through that basement. And it just like it stresses me out. I'm sorry. Stresses me out so hard to talk about. But I was like walking through that basement, and I remember in detail like I've never left that place, and I was just like, it was like surrounded with spiders and spider webs, and like anybody who knows me, I'm like absolutely like horrified of spiders. I hate them. Like I feel like that is probably my greatest fear ever, are spiders. Like I hate them. And like in this dream, this house is just like covered in them, and like I can't like I have to, for whatever reason in my dream, like I know I have to go from one end of the basement to the other, and like it just and I have to like walk through all these spider webs, and it just like freaks me out. And like there's other stuff that I will not include in here because I feel like it's gory, and I'm just like, I'm not going to throw that out there. It's just like very vivid stuff that I feel like when I woke up, I was so upset. So like honestly, that's what spurred me to talk about this, because I feel like I still have not let go of something, and that's why I'm making this video. I like, even if I don't talk about it, even if I don't try to think about it, it's still there. Like I don't know what the meaning of it is, and I feel like I just want answers. I legit just would love if somebody could explain what happened, or like, and I know like there's that whole thing, like I've watched documentaries of people, or like paranormal shows of people talk about demonic entities, and that freaks me out so bad, because I feel like that stuff can latch on to you. And like to somebody, you could easily just say like, I don't know, like I'm being dramatic, which is probably what a lot of people are gonna think. Like I think that about myself as well, but I just want someone to like maybe bounce back theories with me or something, you know. I'm sorry, I can't talk about it anymore. I feel like I have reached that level where I have freaked myself out sufficiently enough. And to somebody else, it probably doesn't sound that scary, but to me, since it's still clearly like following me, I can't do it anymore in this video. I'll probably make like a follow-up video or something else. Hopefully this didn't bore anybody too much. Hopefully you were at least entertained. I would love somebody to, you know, leave a comment, leave a thought. If you like this video, drop a like. I would very much appreciate that. I would like to know that, you know, somebody's at least enjoying the content that I make. Or don't. I'm just glad that you're, I don't know, like you're watching this, and that's like super cool. Anyway, I will see you beautiful people next time. I love you, and hopefully everybody is staying safe during these uncertain times. But I will see you next time.